last video we did was the full eternity in platinum with really large diamonds going all the way around. And in that video, I promised that we will be talking about the set work. This is that video. My name is Jaco, behind the camera as always, Damia. Welcome back. Let me show you how I set these diamonds. We started with the ring as it is right here. It was basically where the last video ended, and if you haven't seen that video, there will be a link in the description for that video. Let's focus on the set work. I'm working in platinum. I'm going to put these stones in as secure as I possibly can, open enough so that they do what they're meant to do, which is giving really great reflection. The cavity is created for the diamond to fit right into it because we've got stones running next to each other. The support of one single claw will be there to support two stones. I'm going to place the stone into the cavity and I'm going to press it from the top. The point of the diamond as you're pushing it will make an impression on the bottom of the platinum here. If it's making an impression, it's not seated yet. I've got to excavate a little bit deeper to make sure that if I'm pressing it in, that the point does not stick into the metal. I'm measuring with my little spring gauge how thick the metal is. Now remember, I've calculated these things beforehand, but it's well worth considering to keep checking the thickness of your metal to make sure that you don't go through. Going through is not a problem, it's just that this particular design, she wanted a smooth inside. I'm pretty close to how the stones need to be set just from the starting point because I worked around getting it to this point. So let's call it fine tuning. If I'm finding that that point presses down, I'm going to take that little area where it presses down, take a slightly bigger ball phrase and just drop it ever so slightly, just a half a millimeter, check it again. I know the point of the little diamond is now in the place where I need it to be because it's not making that little impression anymore. There's not something fighting the stone from the bottom. Now I'm looking at slightly increasing the cavity size. If I'm putting the stone into the cavity and I don't have enough height on the claws here, I need to look at where else I can let the stone drop. I'm not going to go any deeper on the bottom there because the stone's already as deep as I want it to be, but there are certain points that's now touching because that little cavity for the little point that was fighting is now being eliminated, but now as it drops down, where else is the stone touching? There's another step that I'm going to be doing, which is cutting the grooves into the claws themselves. Now, cutting the grooves is really just a repetition if I'm getting the height of the diamonds all the way the same. I'm cutting in a particular height down from the top of the claw and I'm grooving just a little angle out of it and I'm repeating it on this side. You can see that there's a symmetry with regards to how these are cut. I'm doing this all the way around and now I'm getting the stones in the position where I feel that they lie right with two stones in place, never just the one, because remember I said two stones, the claws work for two stones at the same time. I'm bringing in some pliers and I'm actually pinching just the top parts of the claws. I'm bringing them in. I'm starting to hug the stones now. That's seating that I was referring to. They're being seated now. By pulling them together like this, I'm essentially making the stones secure, but they're not tight yet. I should just mention the very first one obviously doesn't have a stone next to it, so I give it a tight little tug, but not all the way like I would do between 1 and 2. Now it's a question of repetition. Because the cut works all the same and because of the thickness of the metal and how we plan them and the repetition of me excavating these things to seat them, they're starting to form a pattern. Looking at these rings as a side profile is beautiful. It's like there's a ring of ice going all the way around. Let's talk about these little grooves that I'm cutting. You could slip and it could run and spoil some of the piece around the edges. A trick that I've learned and I've also sometimes employed is by changing the reverse of the direction of your machine. It helps a lot, but you lose a little bit of the cutting tension or the resistance that you would get out of the burrs. I'm using a very small setting burr. I'm using it at a high speed with lots of lubrication. I'm using the small ones because I feel like I can get more control with regards to moving it about and getting a really decent cut. I've actually had people ask me about, and we refer to these as Dremel machines. I think Dremel were the first ones to bring them out. You can get these from most hardware shops. It's a small impact machine, and what we do is we take that point, we flatten that out so it's got a flat point, and it really does hammer the metal. And when I'm looking for something that's got a little bit more punch to it, I turn to one of these machines, because remember, I built this thing quite strong. It's not going to listen to me trying to push it. I need something more. I've bent it over, but I'm punching it over right now, so I'm really forcing that metal over the stone. So I'm coming at a straight angle like this, and as they're bending, I'm moving my angle on top of it as well, moving that metal over it and closing essentially those little gaps that I created for the corners. If a stone's not perfectly seated, it's going to pop out. So I'm holding my finger over the stones as I'm going along, and I'm seeing how they're all reacting. They're not tight yet. This is what I'm busy doing right now. There's no specific pattern to this. You can do just the whole row on the one side, turn the ring, do the other side as well, depending on how they're seated. Hammering metal is going to distort it. Don't worry about that, because the platinum we can obviously cut away, we can make it nice and pretty. For now, I'm only looking for as much material to squash in between that stone and to hold the stones as best as I possibly can. But the setting of the stones in this particular case as well is where I'm taking a single claw and I'm going to split them. If I was going to use a single claw between each one of the stones, in my mind it might just be a little bit too much of a feature, because those claws would have had to be quite big. In other materials and smaller stones, I would just put something in there and split it. But this platinum ring is made by hand. It's already very compressed, and now I've gone with a hammering tool and I've compressed it more. And I don't want to make it any softer, because I want it to be hard, but I need everything that I can possibly do to help me split that platinum now, because it's going to fight me. I'm using a saw blade and I'm cutting visually between the diamonds a slight line, going ever so slightly down, breaking them in half, but I'm also going to be cutting it deep enough so that it also gives me a little bit more of a heads up. So when I put something in there, that when I wedge it, I don't have to wedge it with absolute force. It's already sort of halfway there. I create these little tools, and I know a lot of my colleagues do exactly the same. You find something that works. These are little burrs that break at a point, and I think, well, let's utilize it for the next thing. I use a few diamond discs and I create a little shape, which is a sturdy little shape, strong enough to put down to the top, and then start moving those claws aside. This is the top support that we're going to be getting. I've gone from seating to setting the stones, but it's a little bit messy, isn't it? Because we've done all this hammering and all the rest of it. So now I need to make it look nice. We know it's set, we're going to refine it now. Let's call it refining. Now filing down this groove that I've pressed onto the stones, and I'm filing that slightly down towards the bottom. Again, on the smaller ones, I would use a graver. Later on in this process of refining, I'm using a graver to cut them and to make them smooth. But for now, I'm using a file, and I'm going to bring that groove all the way down to where the scallops end as well, to add to the pattern of this ring. I've got the essential part pushing down on the stones. Anything that I don't need, anything that's been squashed, anything more than what I need, I'm cutting away, the beautifying of it. You're not taking any of the structure away, you're just going finer and finer and finer on the detail. That's the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've got any questions, put them in the comments. People are having conversations, and I'm actually finding it quite delightful reading through most of the comments where people are discussing different topics and going into different directions, which is, you know, it just shows me that the community is alive, and I really appreciate you guys being here. Until next time, it's time for me to go home. It's time for the mine to go home. We will see you on the next video.